Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker, and welcome to Monday. This is Let's Talk Tropics, and we're going to be looking at some different things that are going on in the tropics. Got a couple of little flare-ups here and there, but for the most part, things are staying relatively quiet. A lot of that due to some Saharan dust, as well as quite a bit of dry air that's out there. So we'll be talking about that. We're also, a little bit later on, we'll go over the different tips on how to prepare, not just for what you can do right now, but also when things start to threaten a week out or just a couple of days out. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we'll look at our traffic cams. It's a hot and humid one out there. 91, the current temperature with a heat index of 101 here in Lafayette. And there have been some showers and thunderstorms developing out to our southwest. Most of that action has not made it into the immediate Acadiana area, but we are starting to get some flare-ups here north of the I-10 corridor, along the Highway 90 corridor into Allen and Jeff Davis Parish. Got some pretty heavy rains that are going on there. And then you've got additional rains that are developing out over the Gulf waters, and I think more will continue to develop as we go through the day. There's a frontal boundary well inland here, way up in here, and with that front kind of staying in place, and with the very warm, moist air coming in off the Gulf of Mexico, and a bit of a trough of low pressure in the upper levels too, I think we're still going to see a pretty good chance for showers and thunderstorms. That's why we're looking at a high today of 91 degrees, which is our current temperature. So let's get these clouds in here and the rain going, so my forecast high is good. Did want to show you the SKU-T model, and basically, if you're not familiar with this, this is all the information that we get from the weather balloon that's launched twice a day. This one was launched about 7 o'clock in the morning. Showed one of these to you on Friday, and we were really looking right here in the middle part where the red line is the temperature and the green line is the dew point. The closer the temperature and the dew point are, the higher your humidity is. And we've got a pretty saturated atmosphere down below, a little bit drier with a few pockets of some dry air here and there, but I still think we've got enough moisture out there to support some decent thunderstorms later today. So let's look at the Gulf of Mexico satellite and see if we've got anything going on close to home. Remember our frontal boundary back here to the northwest and all that low-level flow coming in from the south, so everything's going to butt up against that front and keep it very moist around Acadiana. But your eyes are probably drawn to all of this mess down here over the Bay of Campeche. You've got some upper level diffluence there, and that's allowing for some thunderstorms to get going. It's also part of a tropical wave. The northern end of the tropical wave is right about in here, and it's moving across the western part of the Caribbean Sea and now moving over toward parts of the Gulf of Mexico. But wave heights are still relatively low there down in the Gulf of Mexico. So our friends that are out in the offshore waters working, you've got some seas running about 2 to 3 feet here in the near shore waters, but with those thunderstorms, things get a little bit rougher. And then we've had a tropical wave that has passed through here, so you got some fresh breezes that are coming across parts of the Caribbean Sea as well. And you can see the Central American satellite, the cold, not the cold front rather, but the tropical wave is basically right about in here, and it's moving off toward the west, and that's why we're seeing those showers and thunderstorms continuing to develop over Central America and much of the Bay of Campeche. And then the Gulf, or rather the Caribbean, is very quiet as we've got a lot of dry air in place, and we've got a bit of an upper level low that's spinning right here. That's not tropical in nature, so no worries there. And then you got a tropical wave out here that's eventually going to be bringing some showers and thunderstorms to the southern windward islands over the next couple of days. Farther out in the Atlantic, again, there's not a lot going on. A tropical wave, a tropical wave, a tropical wave right there. Here is our tropical wave that's over Central America, continuing to push off toward the west. Still a decent amount of Saharan dust here, and some of that stretches into parts of the Caribbean Sea as well. So we're going to still see that being an issue, and you got some Saharan dust out here as well, and some of that will start to slide into the Gulf of Mexico. So with a lot of dry air out there and that dust coming off the African continent, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot happening over the next couple of days. Even with a number of tropical waves and some decent water temperatures that are out there, pretty much everywhere you go in the development zone for the month of July is over 80 degrees on that water. Those numbers are Celsius, so anything above 26 and a half to 27 is where you start to get into that 80 degree water, and then the tropical cyclone heat potential just continues to get even higher and higher here over the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico, into the Caribbean Sea, out toward the Windward Islands, and even out here in the development zone. And that's a measure of 80-degree water at the surface, and also how far deep that goes. So if we were to have better atmospheric conditions, say we didn't have any Saharan dust and we had a pretty good tropical wave out there, if it was moving over one of those areas, we'd be pretty concerned, especially if there was some light wind shear out there. But there's a look at the Saharan dust and dry air map. You've got pretty good infiltration here across much of the Atlantic and into the Caribbean as well. Western Atlantic is dealing with a lot of Saharan dust. Tropical waves are trying to work their way below that, but I think they're going to be influenced by the dry air and not really have much of a chance. And there's not a lot of moisture for these to tap into if they were able to stir up at the surface as they got higher in the atmosphere. There's a ton of dry air out here. Caribbean is relatively dry, and it seems like most of the moisture, at least in the near term, is reserved for the western part of the Gulf of Mexico, which is where we are, and it's not going to be causing any tropical weather. It's just going to keep us very warm and moist here over the next several days. Moving along the shear map, there's quite a bit of that still out there, although it is starting to show some signs of weakening compared to what we see during the month of June and the early part of July. If we didn't have all that dry air in place, we could possibly see something trying to get going in that area. And if we had a tropical wave perhaps right there, it might have a chance, but there's still a lot of wind shear out there. So looking at the GFS model, this takes us out 16 days. So that goes out through August the 7th. Not really showing anything, maybe a little wave of moisture working its way into Central America about July 29th or 30th, but then moving across in the Pacific and perhaps becoming a tropical system on the opposite side of Central America. And the Euro model really isn't showing a whole lot either over the next 10 days. Maybe a little bit of a flare-up, we'll say north of Puerto Rico. Possibly something could be developing there, but that's the only hint that I can see in the Euro models, and those are the Euro and the GFS are the ones that go far enough out. Does this mean that we're not going to see any tropical weather for the next 10 to 16 days? Well, no, because sometimes things do tend to eventually start to stir up, so we can eventually see something between now and August the 7th, but right now we're not seeing a whole lot out there. But at least for the next 7 days, the National Hurricane Center doesn't think we're going to see any tropical weather developing there, at least for the next week or so. But the frequency of our tropical storms and hurricanes do tend to go up. We're still in July where things are relatively light on the activity, but very quickly things do start to ramp up, and the development zones in the latter part of July look like this, while in August they really start to open up a lot more, where you can see development just about anywhere in the tropical Atlantic, and that just only grows even more as you get into September. So again, this is the time to make sure you've got your plan together. Many of you have probably seen this particular graphic many times if you've been watching Acadiana Weather Today's Let's Talk Tropics. These are all of the things that you can do right now. Getting your batteries, your flashlights, water, non-perishable foods, checking out your personal hygiene and cleaners and medicines and first aid, and also saving all of your important papers, your IDs and insurance as digital, and getting a basic tool set, lots of entertainment for your kids, and all your pet supplies that you would need in case we had a tropical system come our way. Now, things do change a little bit. About a week before, sometimes most of us have an idea that something is going to probably come visit or be at least close enough for you to prepare. So that's when you start to look at, what are your plans? Are you going to stay or are you going to go? Secure your home. You can maybe start to move some things inside a week before. Top off your gas tanks. Make reservations if you have to, if you decide you want to go evacuate. If there's a thought that this could be a strong type of system, go ahead and make those reservations. A lot of times when I do that, I make reservations for my family, but I make them so that they can be canceled the night before. That way I've got enough time to cancel those plans if the tropical system decides to go in a different direction. And also alert your family who don't live here in Louisiana, live outside of the storm zone, of what your plan is, whether you're going to stay or whether you're going to go. So then we get 72 hours out, and this is usually when your hurricane warnings or your hurricane watches start to get posted. You want to go ahead and grab your last minute supplies, ice, food, gas, propane, things like that. And if you do decide that you're going to evacuate, make sure you choose 2 different evacuation routes. To get out of Acadiana, to get to, let's say, Highway 190 or I-10, if you live south of the area, try to go ahead and take some of the roads that you know better and let other folks that are coming in from New Orleans or Houma or Morgan City use Highway 90 and I-49 to get northward. If you can, choose a different evacuation route that's not one of the main ones, and then once you get out of the immediate area, then you can rejoin some of the bigger interstates, and then that way you can get on to where you need to go. Make sure you check your neighbors, know what their plan is, and then when it's time to do so, go ahead and put your plan into action. So those are just some things that you can be doing now, a week out, and then 72 hours out. That way, when a tropical system comes, you will be ready. But we've got 3 under our belt. We're not expecting a whole lot here over the next few days or so, but you never know. Things do whip up every once in a while, and you don't have quite as much notice. So we'll go ahead and keep an eye on the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico, although there's really not anything expected to go on there. I think we're going to focus a lot more on the potential for some moderate to heavy rains coming on here in Acadiana for the next couple of days. Well, I really hope you enjoy our lunchtime visits on Let's Talk Tropics. If you do, please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel and turn on those notifications too. That way you know if any severe weather pops up, if we activate the severe weather stream, or better yet, when Acadiana weather today's morning forecast drops sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, Let's Talk Tropics is live right here at noon each and every weekday. I'm meteorologist Dave Baker. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Tuesday.